Hello and welcome to the 34th broadcast of the Nerdflix podcast. Today we are kicking off the Christmas specials with The Nightmare Before Christmas. So let's get started.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Excellent!
Killing me, Smalls!
On the dog side.
First you gotta do the trumpet shuffle. Come on!
With great power comes great responsibility.
Use the Force, Luke.
Welcome to the Nerdflix podcast.
The Nightmare Before Christmas is, of course, the classic Disney Tim Burton film, a claymation about a town where basically the town is Halloween. It is Halloween Town, and the holiday Halloween is depicted within the town. And when the Halloween Town and Christmas Town cross paths, Jack Skellington will try to take over Christmas Town and take over Christmas. And this really is a really good film plot-wise, but also just visual-wise, because the clay stop-motion looks really cool. The first thing we'll do is clear up people's common mistakes about this film. This movie, The Nightmare Before Christmas, was not directed by Tim Burton. A lot of people think that, and his name is used for the branding of the movie, mostly because he's just a popular director, but the actual director of the film is a man by the name of Henry Selick. This guy is basically a stop-motion wizard, and he's done other things, such as Coraline. I talked about him back on the Coraline podcast, but Tim Burton did not direct The Nightmare Before Christmas. The inspiration for this story came from the idea of how stores clash with their different holiday decorations throughout the year, and particularly later in the year when we transition from Halloween to Christmas, and they tend to put out Christmas decorations incredibly early, a little too early if you ask me, and a lot of times they'll clash with the Halloween decorations. So the idea for the story of The Nightmare Before Christmas was Tim Burton seeing these decorations clash together in the stores, and gave him the idea. The stop-motion approach for this movie was inspired by the old Rankin Bass stop-motion TV specials, like Rudolph and The Year Without a Santa Claus, and that's where the inspiration to make this into a stop-motion came from. And originally, Nightmare Before Christmas was going to be a TV special, just like the Rankin Bass movies were, but there was a lot of potential in it, and it became a full-featured Disney film. As I mentioned back on the Coraline podcast, stop-motion is a very difficult thing. Take it from me, I've tried it myself. It is incredibly hard. So it comes as no surprise that stop-motion takes a very long time. I mentioned how long Coraline took. Well, Nightmare Before Christmas took a total of 3 years. And they were basically shooting at 24 frames per second. And so, since it was going to take so long to do stop motion, they actually began the stop motion process before the script was even complete for the movie. One of the iconic characters from The Nightmare Before Christmas is Oogie Boogie Man. He is a giant burlap sack person, and once the burlap sack bit is removed, he is millions and millions of bugs. But in an original version of The Nightmare Before Christmas, Oogie Boogie was actually going to turn out to be Dr. Finkelstein, Sally's father. But this was changed, and he's just a bunch of bugs now. One of the most difficult shots to film was when Jack was inspecting the door into Christmas Town. He looks into the doorknob, and you see his reflection and his hand reaching for the doorknob. This was very difficult to get the perfect reflection off of the doorknob, showing the perfect image of Jack without getting any cameras or anything in the way. So it was incredibly difficult to shoot just that very few seconds when you see Jack's reflection in the doorknob. And now it is time for another segment of product review. I do own a fair bit of amount for this film. I, of course, own the DVD, and I have a Jack Skellington piggy bank, among other things. But what I do want to talk about are my 2 Nightmare Before Christmas Funko Pops. I have Jack Skellington as Santa Claus, and I have the Mayor. Both of these are really cool pops, and they look very unique compared to some of my other pops. But I particularly like the Mayor, because just like in the movie, his head spins to reveal another face. And so these are some pretty cool pops, and we will check their value once we go into the Funko app. But first, we're going to go to shopdisney.com to check out some Nightmare Before Christmas merch. So, the first thing we've done is we're going to the official Disney shop with a search of the Nightmare Before Christmas. Some different things come up. A lot of jackets for some reason. I don't know why. A book bag, blanket. Of course, you're going to get a ton of shirts, but this one here is pretty unique. It has Jack on it and says Disneyland down the sleeve. Phone case, pins. Now this product I think is really cool. It's a bunch of what look like potion bottles and different weird ingredients that Dr. Finkelstein would use in the movie. And I guess they're just jars you can use, but they're pretty cool. Then again, they are a whopping $30. But if you think it's worth it, it'd be a pretty cool thing. And then a cool looking snow globe, more jackets for some reason. A Jack Skellington Yahtzee. More keys for some reason. If you remember in the Hocus Pocus episode, I talked about those Hocus Pocus keys. Apparently there's Nightmare Before Christmas ones as well. Some different signs and posters. But, so you get the idea there. So now we're going to go over to the Funko app with a general search of the Nightmare Before Christmas. And there is a ton available. There is a Nightmare Before Christmas Advent Calendar. That's pretty cool. $65. Card game, $8. Now, one of the most expensive ones I found here is Day of the Dead Sally, which is worth $75. That is a pop. Some keychains. The original Mayor pop. The one I have is not the original Mayor one. It is one that was re-released later. But the original one is worth $490. That is a lot. Like I said, the one I have is not the original. The Artist Series Sally is worth $20. A lot of plush here. Jack Skellington plush, $27. Some bobbleheads. Some figures. Locke, he's worth $28. And so you get the idea there. And then we'll go to my collection. And we'll check the value of Jack as Santa and the Mayor. By the way, my collection is currently at $342, so I don't know, compare that to when I recorded the Funko Pop episode. I don't even remember what it was back then. A lot of things have dropped and also gone up since then. Jack is worth Jack was released in 2013 and is worth $12, and the Mayor is worth $10 and was released in 2020. Jack is actually my second oldest Funko, my first oldest one being Marty McFly from 2012. But yes, so that is what is available for Nightmare Before Christmas. And Nightmare Before Christmas merch isn't usually hard to find, and there is a lot out there. When the movie was first released, Disney did not go around branding their name on top of this movie like crazy like they do now, because they thought it was a little bit too dark for them to heavily promote, because Disney and stuff. But, now, of course, since the movie was such a smash success, they have their name all over it. They are in no way covering the fact that they are associated with this film, but originally they were a little hesitant because they thought it was dark. And one of Disney's attempts to make the film a little less scary and more fun and family-friendly was the suggestion to have Jack Skellington have eyes. Everyone knows Jack Skellington as being, well, a skeleton. And, of course, he has a skull for a head with no eyes, just empty sockets. But Disney really pushed to have Jack have eyes because apparently people can relate to a character more when they have eyes for some reason. Apparently eyes in film and characters conveys more emotion and gets the audience to attach and relate with them better. But Jack Skellington obviously doesn't have eyes. Disney pushed for him to have eyes, but Tim Burton and Henry Selick resisted and never gave him eyes. Jack Skellington does reappear in some of Henry Selick's later films. I'm sure I mentioned back on the Coraline podcast about the Jack Skellington Easter egg in an egg in Coraline. But and also one of Henry Selick's directed films, James and the Giant Peach, of course based on the classic Roald Dahl book. Jack Skellington is very much so obviously in the movie. At one point, the characters journey into the ocean and meet a sunken pirate ship, where the skeleton of a pirate basically chases them, and it looks identical to and is the same model of Jack Skellington in James and the Giant Peach. One of the original ideas for a scene in the movie is to have some characters playing hockey, and instead of in the movie when the characters playing hockey are batting around a jack-o'-lantern, in the original idea they were going to be batting around a severed head with the hockey sticks. And if you look closely at the severed head, it would have been none other than a clay version of the head of Tim Burton himself. But Disney, of course, again, Disney being Disney, decided that a severed head being hit around as a hockey puck was not a very Disney-like thing, so that was scrapped. But originally they were going to play hockey with Tim Burton's severed head. There were actually 2 people to voice Jack Skellington, one for his voice and one for his singing. There was some proposal from Disney to have a sequel that would have been CGI instead of claymation. But Tim Burton rejected this idea, saying that it was it was good on its own. It didn't need a sequel, because the sequel would have been something dumb like Jack Skellington in Thanksgiving Land. And CGI would have just been horrible for Nightmare Before Christmas, so I'm glad he rejected that. And now it is time for another segment of Product Review. This one comes to us from Nerdflix number 7, the Star Wars prequels. When General Grievous in Revenge of the Sith, he ignites his lightsabers and brings out his extra 2 arms, in the background you see a battle droid telling another battle droid, bumping him in the shoulder, almost as to tell the other battle droid to, hey, watch this is going to look really cool. So there is some cool detail being put into these movies by the CGI artists. Over the weekend, I got to watch Ghostbusters Afterlife, and it was an excellent film. It was a very good sequel to the original movies, and I won't go too deep into my review as to not spoil the movie for anyone who still wants to see it, but it was very good. And some other stuff that's coming up that is very promising is, of course, Spider-Man No Way Home on December 17th. That does have, I think, like two or three trailers already out. And so does The Book of Fett, which is releasing on December 29th. Of course, this is a spin-off of The Mandalorian dealing with the story of Boba Fett, which I'm very excited for both of those things. Okay, that is it for this episode of the Nerdflix podcast. Be sure to join us next time when I talk about Peanuts and, of course, the Christmas special. So until then, I will see you next time on Nerdflix.
Sober Anakin! I have the high ground! I'm Batman. You're a wizard, Harry. 1.21 gigawatts.
Thank you for listening. Goodbye.